Hello, welcome back to the channel. In this video series, we're continuing to review the Site Planning and Design Handbook. This video is about Chapter 4, and Chapter 4 is dedicated to the design for communities. So, design and planning is the process of bringing a vision to the point of implementation. We know that inside design professionals must balance the client's objectives with the community standards and expectations, which are composed of stated, tangible parameters, as well as unstated expectations and intangible elements. So for the site layout, the designer's analysis and sensitivity to the site informs the entire design process, and awareness of the site might include its history, its place in the larger landscape ecosystem, its real estate value, and its local political or economical importance. So, recognition of the impacts of urban sprawl and an increasing awareness of smart growth alternatives are beginning to have an impact on site development practices. When we talk about the residential site design, the primary objective in residential and community site planning is to provide a desirable place to live for the intended users. For example, in 1995, Thomas Hilton, in his book Save Our Lands, Save Our Towns, described 10 rules of quality development for communities. So you can see it here if you would like to refer back to the textbook, and I always recommend that to back up my videos with the textbook because of the good quality graphics, images, charts, tables, and other images that cannot be actually delivered through the video. So Hilton's characteristics of a quality community are as follows: one, sense of place; then human scale; self-contained neighborhoods; diversity; transit-friendly design; trees; alleys and parking lots to the rear; humane architecture; outdoor rooms; maintenance and safety. The most desirable communities allow maximum pedestrian access to schools, work, shops, and other amenities, but also provide easy transit in and out of the neighborhood. The presence of human-scale streets and buildings, the softening and tempering effects of trees, and the diversity of social and architectural aspects are commonly considered to be important aspects of a community. Although security and safety are often cited as important, achieving these through hardening of buildings and sites is not desirable. Suburb and other neighborhoods in the midtown often have little connection except through arterial, which may have provision for pedestrian movement or bicycle traffic. This isolation of neighborhoods can work against development of a sense community. This isolation reflects a process in which discrete parcels of land are developed without regard for adjacent parcels subject to future development or even existing development in many cases. It's important to begin to identify home site early in the site analysis. Generally, it's done using topographic mapping of the site and walking the entire site to identify valuable locations or site features. Hillside lots tend to be irregular in shape, reflecting the physical aspects of the site. The lot configurations are designed to encompass a desirable living space in a more difficult development condition. Lot configurations may range from tight clusters that have large undeveloped portions of the site as open space to individual lots with dwelling units separated by varying degrees of distance. The layout of a residential development is part of an overall community design. Communities are more than a collection of houses. They include recreation facilities, schools, shopping centers, workplaces, and religious institutions. So, when we talk about emergent practices, there is a case study in the Connecticut River Valley, and that has been inhabited for thousands of years. So the River Valley converted from farmland to development, and also the projections indicated in this trend are actually going to continue. But existing ordinances and planning regulations did not provide the protection residents felt they needed. So the River Valley comprises of 19 towns in 3 counties. No coordinated effort existed to direct development or the construction of infrastructure on which future development would be attracted. So in 1980s, the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Management, or DEM, established the Connecticut Valley Action Connecticut River Valley Action Program to develop a regional approach to planning and conservation that would preserve the scenic, historic, and environmental qualities of the area and still allow for development. So it's interesting to see how local government actually steps up and regulates the conservation efforts. So design guidelines based on preserving the character of the region and those elements most prized by the residents also provided for viable residential and commercial development. And much of this process involved turning classic planning tools upside down. For example, it's common for zoning to require a commercial shopping center to be set back 100 or even 200 feet from a public right of way. So this arrangement forces the shopping center into the familiar strip with a sea of parking and in front of it. And the center's recommendations were to require a maximum setback of 25 feet from the public right of way, locating all of the parking behind or alongside the building. So it actually encourages people to walk from store to store and bring the stores into a more human scale. And gives this all downtown area. And this arrangement is more in keeping with the character of the existing towns and streetscapes. So, and merchants have accepted the new design because it gave them 2 places to advertise, which is front and back entrances. So, we see those changes in the cities and smaller towns. So, and although these ideas are not new or unique, in this case, the Connecticut River Valley program was able to develop broad support among residents and landowners, and public meetings were held and new ideas from the design manual were discussed. So also the communication with the community, with the residents is critically important when major planning happens, when there is a master plan developed. Lot layout alternatives. So the rapid expansion of suburbs and edge cities has had several impacts. The cost of housing has continued to rise in real terms over the last 30 years, and affordability has become a major issue in some communities. Rapid development has also been criticized for consuming agricultural land, reducing environmental quality, and abandoning urban centers for um, for the betterment. So these complaints generally are grouped under the umbrella of urban sprawl. The key to a successful residential design, regardless of the cost of the housing, lies in how effectively the design creates a sense of place and relates to the end user. Some sites have natural features that may be worked into the design. Other projects may rely on the combination of housing type and landscape architecture to create a feeling on the site that attracts and holds residents. When all costs are considered, large lot developments consume more resources than they contribute to a community. The trend in development is toward higher densities, generally consistent with the goals of the various smart growth initiatives around the US. So, work done by the National Association of Home Builders in 1986 um, the actually found that smaller lots and cluster type developments have equal or greater initial and resale value than traditional residential development. Small lot development usually refers to projects with 6 to 12 units per acre, and also, the primary target market includes young professionals, couples without children, and empty nesters, but there are successful small lot communities for actually every demographic target. So, a recent survey of consumer preference found that more than half of those who said they expected to build a new home in the next 10 years cited green features such as energy efficiency and sustainable materials as very important considerations. Also, this number rose to more than two-thirds among those under 30 years of age, and that data is accurate as of 2008. So when we talk about grid layout, it is an efficient way to subdivide property, but it can be monotonous, especially for residential areas. The key advantage of the grid layout is maximizing lots per linear foot of street, and the relative ease in finding one's way provides a certain level of comfort for many people. But the straight streets often invite higher vehicle speeds, especially when wide cartways are used. So, a variety of lot configurations have evolved with higher densities to accommodate the smaller lot size and traditional or familiar housing types. Four configuration types are common. Some projects are a combination of strategies, others design around a single lot and housing type. So deep, narrow lots, that's one type, and that is typically range from 3,000 to 4,800 square feet, and that's about 6 to 8.5 lots per acre. So the typical 40-foot wide lot allows for about 10 foot of side yard, which leaves 20 feet for a garage and 25 feet for a house. So garages are close to the front of the lot, often in front of the house facade to maximize the amount of yard space behind the house. This tends to create an unattractive street view of all garage doors. The deep, narrow lot provides minimal backyard privacy, especially in housing with two or more floors. This may be offset by paying special attention to the location of windows in adjacent units and to visual landscape barriers, but it's difficult to anticipate the location of windows and side lines in projects in which different housing models are possible. So if we talk about wide and shallow lots, they give a feeling of a larger lot with more space between units because its longer dimensions are um, actually along the street. So and those lots generally yield about 6 to 7 units per acre, with lot sizes from starting from 3,500 square feet. And please refer to the textbook. There are a lot of images here, so you can see how that is organized. So development costs may be higher as well because there are fewer units per linear foot of road and utilities. An increase in lot width of 20 foot will increase in almost 50% in utility costs per unit over the deep, narrow plan. The backyard of the wide, shallow lot offers little privacy, especially in two-story homes. And but privacy can be increased with fencing or landscaping. So when we talk about the alley homes, that is another small lot layout alternative, and garages are located in the back of the property, and access was over a common alley, usually 16 to 18 feet wide. So the alley design allows for lots of between 33 and 4,500 square feet, yielding to yielding 4 to 8 units per acre. So many older desirable neighborhoods using this configuration still exist in cities throughout the US. And the garage was located in the rear, the streetscape in all house fronts, no driveways, and no garage doors. So um, projects with alleys provide ideal utility corridors. Z-lots. Z-lot refers to a zero lot line layout in which the house is placed on or very near to the property line. So you can see another layout here. So houses are designed to increase light and maximize privacy by strategically locating windows and entranceways. Excuse me. Some Z-lot developments provide special maintenance easements or even condominium type arrangements to provide access to buildings for maintenance. So connectivity. In traditional urban and early suburban development, neighborhoods were commonly assembled on a pattern determined by pre-existing conditions and by the local planning authority. So as development occurred, it extended the existing pattern of streets and related infrastructure. So site designers should look for and evaluate ways of connecting to existing neighborhoods and street systems, although resistance to this sort of connectivity has occurred on occasion. Cluster designs. So they allow the same number of units on a tract, but group the units into clusters of greater density. So, and this is how more open space is preserved. So there are a few cluster design attributes, and those are as follows. They allow same number of units in smaller space for more open space, reduces visual impact on existing community, allows for open space buffers between incompatible uses, preserves important natural functions of landscape, contributes to rural character of area, and it is sensitive to the character of the site, and it establishes a benchmark for future projects. So when we talk about allowances for easements and rights of way, what is important to understand here is that with smaller front and side yards, easements may take a significant portion of the street side of individual lots. Utility easements may restrict planting trees or building fences. Some utilities prefer that easements be located outside of the cartway to reduce the cost of maintenance and repair. And again, refer to the images. Here you can see the examples. Um, so when we talk about affordable housing design, um, zoning and land development ordinances are prescriptions for development, and the costs are a function of many factors, but among them are the local development standards. Planners and designers know that the local development standards can be very prescriptive and can raise the development costs of a project. So homes in many older communities continue to command high market prices, and many features that contribute to the continuing attraction and market value of these older homes would not be allowed under current ordinances and practices. So many of the standards for community development today were refined after the World War II with, for example, street width, lot size, setbacks, and many other aspects of post-war community development were modeled on the grid pattern and lot layout. And developments with wider streets and larger lots reached their peak in 1980s, and their popularity has been sustained to this day. So affordability can be improved by specific changes in development standards and local practices. And you can see a few examples here in the chart in the textbook. Urban infill. Planning and site design is generally focused on new development with the growing concentration of people living in and moving to the cities. It's appropriate that the concern of designers include the sustainable redevelopment of existing neighborhoods. There is a robust but quiet effort in cities to restore, revitalize, and preserve urban neighborhoods everywhere. Some cities have experienced suburban flight, often leaving urban areas with infrastructure designed for much longer populations than they currently support. So, demolition of vacant or poorly maintained buildings offers opportunities for redevelopment. Attracting retail into cities can be a mixed blessing, but supermarkets and similar stores are commonly seen as desirable and do not always compete directly with the smaller neighborhood stores, especially specialty shops. Commercial and industrial development can be a bit more problematic. In the past, factories often were constructed within walking distance of housing. This circumstance has resulted in local residents resisting industrial and some commercial redevelopment. So, other issues also constrain the development of urban property for non-residential properties, and older roads, for example, often have turn-in ready that are challenging to modern delivery trucks. These situations increase local traffic congestion and increase parking competition. The structure of many older buildings simply is not compatible with modern industrial and commercial uses. Other buildings tend to have lower ceiling heights and smaller rooms than are desired for modern industrial warehousing or even commercial uses. These limitations are underway in many cities. So when we design, let's move to the next subsection. And when we design for security, uh, actually the awareness has increased in the recent years, and now there is such an aspect of design as CPTD, or crime prevention through environmental design. And it's most successfully conducted in conjunction with other community efforts such as community policing and neighborhood awareness. So there were two schools regarding community prevention through environmental design. One studies how places can be designed and built to be safer, simply to create better quality places. And the other is described as situational prevention. And that is remedial work addressed to specific trouble or hot spots. Although environmental conditions may encourage or discourage crime, design alone is not the answer. Thefts are higher near schools and rapes are higher near hospitals because of predictable routines that create opportunity. To discourage crime, we must create environments that make it hard for criminals to do their work and that encourage other acceptable or desirable activities. Design is part of a larger strategy that must include management and social and community development. There is no single formula for the design of defensible space. A thorough understanding of the physical and social environment of a neighborhood is required. So design solutions for problems faced by communities range from improving security and safety elements to helping to increase neighborhood identity and pride. A community that is aware of what is going on within it and where activities in public space are readily observed is less likely to have a crime problem, primarily because of the community itself, through its interaction and behavior, represents a capable guardian. Much of the CPTD effort is geared toward physically modifying space, but this effort should be a product of community desire and interest. So designers working with communities become facilitators of the community's goals. Working with neighbors and local businesses, the CPTD team identifies the attributes and the problems of the neighborhood. The team looks for positive elements such as schools, churches, or long-standing businesses and locates these places on the map. Next, the problem areas are identified, and the teams may elect to map abandoned buildings, vacant lot, high crime areas, home ownership, parking areas, poorly lit areas, traffic patterns, or anything else that contributes to the character of the place. From these maps and the juxtaposition of positive and negative elements, the CPTD team works with neighbors to identify and prioritize steps toward a better community. In general, there are three aspects of defensible space design: territory, access, and surveillance. Access refers to providing and restricting access, in short, control. Territory refers to private and public spaces, and it's established by drawing distinction between spaces. So again, refer to the images here. And also, surveillance refers to seeing and being seen. Windows and doors facing the street allow people to be seen both as observers and the observed. Points of congregation, such as playgrounds and porches, encourage residents to see and be seen, increasing the degree of visible surveillance in a neighborhood. So the events of September 11th, 2001 in Washington, D.C. and New York City caused design um, officials to designers and officials to revisit security as a design element. Security planning and design is completely consistent with the CPTD principles. Increased surveillance reduces opportunities to be unobserved and increases the risks of being caught. Effective design limits opportunity for access and escape and protects the buildings and people. New facilities that might be the target of such attacks should incorporate security into the most basic design considerations. Redevelopment or retrofitting projects should be aware of the vulnerability of the site and make appropriate recommendations. It's likely that site designers will work in conjunction with security experts, but they should develop an awareness and expertise of their own as well. So also new facilities should ideally incorporate a setback from the street that allows for observation of all approaching vehicles or pedestrians. And also the key site design concern is access by pedestrians and vehicles. And security should provide for vehicles and pedestrians to be directed into specific patterns of approach through the site design. Approaches to entrances should be open but provide controlled access. Also, hardened bollard systems may be used, but other methods such as changes in elevation, raising planting, or water features might produce the same effect without the hardened appearance. It may be possible to require vehicles to change directions upon entering the site. This will require the vehicle to slow down and reduce the possibility of ramming or rush to the building using the vehicle. Also, when barriers are called for that will stop a vehicle, um, there are certain procedures. So parking should be kept well away from the building, and separate controlled parking may be advisable for key personnel. It is likely that new public facilities will not be built with public parking beneath them. Strict setbacks from the building should be observed for all vehicles. Loading and unloading areas should be large enough for needed queuing, but not allow parking. Loading docks should be designed in consultation with the facility management. So let's move to the lighting, and that is also part of design for security. So uh, lighting serves to improve security and wayfinding, but it also provides important visibility to commercial sites and can be used to create special effects and filling in the nighttime landscape. The design of site lighting is just as often performed by companies selling lighting equipment as by an auxiliary service. Um, Finding the right combination of products, lighting type, and distribution can be a complex procedure. The purpose for the lighting is a critical consideration. So for lighting for security or surveillance calls for a different strategy than designing for a more intimate space. Lighting is selected on the basis of the type of light, the distance from light source to object, the light of surrounding areas, and the nature of the activity being illuminated. The distribution and brightness of light are the fundamental elements of lighting design. Distribution of light refers to how much light is cast over an area. And there are several methods for computing the effectiveness of different lighting choices. There, um, there are a few examples here and a few calculations here in the textbook. And also there is a chart showing recommended levels of illumination. There is nothing to memorize, but you always need to know where to find that information. And you can see, for example, for the major roads, 10 to 20 lux, or between 1 and 2 foot candles is recommended. And when we talk about, for example, gardens, it's 50 lux or 5 foot candles. So just some information for you to compare and to be aware of. So, and also please take a look, there's another chart showing performance characteristics of different sources of light. For example, you can see the fluorescent, and you can see the lumens, you can see the life in hours, you can see color, you can see other important information here. So for example, fluorescent has 70 watt or lumens, and the life is about 6,000 hours, and color is for the most part good, and good color purity. Then high pressure sodium or HPS, that's 130 watts, and the life is 16,000 hours, and color is yellow to orange, and it's a poor color purity. So it actually washes out colors in landscape. Incandescent light is 10 to 18 lumens, and it's 750 to 1,000 hours of life. So the color is yellow, and it creates a very good color purity. Also, low pressure sodium or LPS is 190 lumens, 11,000 hours, and it has a good color purity. Then metal halide is 90 watts, and the life is about 14,000 hours, and it's like a cool white color, and has a good color purity. Also, mercury vapor, 55 watts, 24,000 hours, and it's a cool white, but it gives a strong blue-green spectrum. So also tungsten iodine is between 18 to 20 watts. It has 2,000 hours, and it has good color purities like deluxe white. So moonlighting is accomplished by using combinations of light carefully located high up in trees and other low wattage ground level lighting attached to branches and leaves from below. Moonlighting can create very dramatic effects and is especially good for transition between lighted areas. The filtered light may provide adequate light for walking on a marked path and can be particularly interesting and beautiful. So backlighting is sometimes used to feature a tree or shrub or other element with an unusual or visually pleasing silhouette. So silhouettes can be achieved by uplighting a wall or surface behind an object. Indirect or bounce lighting is achieved by directing light to a surface that reflects the light into or on a desired area. The development of extruded fiber optic lighting and other products has increased the possibility of this for the landscaping purposes. Commercial lot layout, that's the next subsection. So the key issue for the developers and tenants is location in the community. Site selection is extremely important. The ideal commercial site seems to have elusive but immutable character. So every community has sites that are successful despite a poor location, and others that never succeed regardless of the tenant or business that locates there. So some of the factors that contribute to the success of a commercial site are related to demographics, and also other aspects of the site's success are well within the scope of the site's professional work. During the site analysis, the site location should be explored. Commercial development with retail shops usually requires a minimum of existing traffic at the proposed location. Very large retail projects may rely on becoming a destination themselves and be less concerned about existing traffic. In other cases, existing intersections are prized location for most commercial projects. Access to the project is critical, and accessibility in this sense refers both to the ability of the customer or client to get into the shop or business and to the visual access of the site. So the most significant impacts are associated with the car traffic and parking, but the intrusion of bright lights and noise can be also problematic. There is a strong preference on the part of retail operations to be able to show the available parking and its proximity to the door to the public. Retail operations often resist attempts to reduce the visual impact of parking by putting behind a building, for example, or screening it. And in the belief that if customers do not see convenient parking, they will go somewhere else. So also, the other important part of accessibility is visibility. So customers and clients generally need to see the development, and efforts to mitigate the visual impacts of development are complicated by the need of commercial projects to be seen. So alternatives to the traditional strip layout may be used to reduce the amount of um, than a of impermeable area. And when commercial sites are developed in a U shape rather than a strip, that may increase the number of parking spaces within the given distance from a merchant's door while reducing the coverage of the site. So the U shape can be a more efficient arrangement of space and reduce the total coverage. Again, please refer to the images. You can see how that works in real life. There are a few pictures as well as some maps and layouts. And we are moving to the walls and fences. So there are a common site and landscape feature and used most often to increase privacy or security, but they also are used to create backgrounds and the features in some applications. So wooden fences are more commonly used in residential areas or for aesthetic purposes on commercial sites. Um, Walls are usually freestanding masonry structures with unique design considerations. And the range of design for fences is very wide. So nearly any type of fence is commercially available today, and a few fences are specially designed and constructed. So also fencing should be of the proper scale and proportion to meet the objective and remain compatible with the design as a whole. Also, fence or wall textures and design contribute to a great deal to its impact. Walls or fences can be made more attractive by introducing elements such as piers or details that break up the monotony of static, unbroken surfaces. The key to fence integrity is the installation of fence posts that anchor and support the wood or plastic or other material sections. So fence posts may be made of metal pipe, PVC, or wood. A wooden post should be treated and dry. The dimension of wooden posts should be selected to provide adequate support for the fence. 4x4 is generally considered to be the minimum acceptable fence post size. Also, posts should be installed to at least the frost depth in places where frost heave occurs at a depth adequate to resist the anticipated wind loads of a particular area. Also, a less common but elegant method of diversion from the English landscape traditions is the haha or sunken fence. This technique is a change in grade, and that was used to prevent livestock from wandering off without visually cluttering the landscape with walls and fences. So please see the image here. You can see how it is done. And also there are a few sections showing the post anchored in concrete, and also you can see the tamped backfield as well. So for more substantial applications, masonry or stone walls may be desirable. And these heavy materials require an adequate support and foundation. All freestanding walls must be designed to resist overtopping due to wind loads and subsurface soil features. When wind pushes on the solid surface of the wall, it causes the wall to act as a lever, turning on a pivot at ground level. So the wall is able to resist overturning by virtue of its weight and by extending the length of the lever by use of a footer. Wind loads vary across the nation and are described and dictated in many local building codes. So the weight of masonry materials varies from 120 pounds per cubic foot for brick or cement masonry units to 145 pounds for stone. Concrete mortar usually has a weight of 150 pounds per cubic foot. To check a wall for overturning, it is necessary to determine the wind load for the area in which the wall will be constructed. So usually building departments have wind design criteria that actually the designers and architects need to follow. So to determine the wall's resistance to wind load, the overturning moment and the right hand moment must be compared. And please see the formulas here as well as the sections and images. So the lateral support of solid walls is designed using a ratio of the length of the wall between lateral supports to the thickness of the wall. And again, please review the images and the formulas here. Eccentric loading on footings may result in footing failure. In most cases, it's recommended to keep the weight of the wall in the center third of the footing. So again, there are images and charts, and you can see the ratio for freestanding wall at a given wind pressure. So you can see how the wall reacts. So serpentine brick walls have been used in gardens since at least the 1700s and are found in many historic gardens. Besides being decorative, the serpentine wall has additional lateral strength. To keep that strength, it is critical that the wall be carefully designed and constructed. The radius of any curved section should not be greater than twice the above grade height of the wall. The depth of the curve should be at least one half of the above grade height. Many historic serpentine walls are built using a simple brick foundation. If the wall is in a location where frost heave is a concern, the wall is to bear weight other than its own, or the wall might be bumped by vehicles. A more substantial footing might be in order. So in the event of a more substantial wall is required, an 8-inch wall may be used with a reinforced concrete footing. And we're moving to the next subsection of chapter 4, and that's water features. So we know that ponds and pools have become very popular landscape features. Um, and water feature can bring a great deal to a landscape of any size. People are drawn to the water perhaps more than to any other single landscape feature, and that's how it's historically been. So, water features are a diverse element in the landscape, ranging from natural appearing small ponds to formal precision water veils. The possibilities are limited only by the imagination and the physical characteristics of water. And now it's also the budget if it's a man-made water feature. And the key to the water feature is the pool or pond. The presence of fountains or falls in other features are framed within the pool or pond. So you can see a few images here. So pool depth is important. The minimum recommended pool depth is 16 inches in order to operate most submersible pumps. Ponds with fish must provide an adequate depth to allow the fish to uh, overwinter, or the fish must be removed each fall. It's important to vary the depth of the pond to allow areas for rooted plant stock as well. Most pond liners are dark colored and tend to produce a reflective surface effect. A light color pond surface will produce a more transparent effect. In a light colored pond, everything is visible and maintenance becomes a more critical issue. So also please take a look. There are some calculations for the pump, and you can see the formula here. You just need to know where to find it when you do the calculations. Also, you can see some images showing pond edge details, and you can see the sections of the pumps here. So when you specify the pumps in sizing, pumps for ponds or pools, it's important to remember how water is moved by pumps. The pressure of the atmosphere at sea level is approximately 14.7 pounds per square inch, or psi. This pressure is pushing on all surfaces and in all directions all of the time. So water weighs approximately 8.34 pounds per gallon, and there are 7.48 gallons per cubic foot of water. So there are 62.4 pounds of water per cubic foot. 1 cubic foot of water in a container will exert 0.433 psi pressure at the bottom of the container. So, and the pressure caused by the weight of the water is called pressure head, or simply head. Head is measured in feet, and every foot of head is equal to 0.433 psi. So, and here there are more formulas to calculate the pump capacity, and you will see that pumps are specified in terms of horsepower and head. So also horsepower is equal to 33,000 foot-pounds per minute, or 746 watts. To calculate the necessary horsepower to lift water, the desired flow must be converted from a volume to the weight of the water. So please review the calculations here. And we are moving to the last subsection, to the final little subchapter of chapter 4, and that's plazas and patios. So the use of plazas or patios in the site design has become an essential element of most projects. So the base should be substantial enough to resist loads from expected traffic and to resist frost damage. Bricks and pavers should always conform to the requirements, and also durability is graded as NX, MX, and SX. NX pavers or bricks should be used only for interior applications. So N is for interiors, here where wetting and freezing will not be issues. MX and SX pavers are used for exterior applications. So SX is selected where freezing will occur. So SX is for snow. And MX is for mild climate. So abrasion resistance is graded as type 1, 2, and 3 in decreasing resistance to abrasion. Type 3 pavers are adequate for residential or light-duty patios. Type 1 pavers are used for heavy traffic areas, including driveways or commercial entrances. And type 2 pavers might be selected for restaurant entrances or similar uses. And here you can see different applications of that. So although concrete provides a durable and most cost economic surface, it offers little in the way of aesthetics to the project. So concrete stains and patterning methods may improve the appearance of poured concrete, but the additional steps may reduce or even eliminate the cost savings. So the use of color or stains on concrete can be affected by the aggregate used in the mix, and if coal ash is used, tests should be done to determine whether there is an effect on the color. So also you can see that mortarless patios are common, and the brick may be set over a wide range of base materials. Please refer to the images here. So the bed materials for bricks and pavers usually consist of a base layer and a satin layer. The satin bed acts as a leveling course between the base and the finished surface. The base provides the strength and resistance to the finished surface. Sand or mortar are the usual satin bed materials, although asphalt is also used. Sand represents a very broad range of choices with many regional differences. However, a well-graded, consistent size washed sand with a maximum particle size of 3/16 of an inch is usually acceptable. So there are also a few standards. You can see ASTM C270 or ASTM C144. That's for aggregates for masonry mortar, and also ASTM C33, that's for concrete aggregates. So type M mortar is preferred in applications where freezing is not expected and consists of 1 part Portland cement, a 1/4 part hydrated lime, and 3 3/4 parts sand. Type S mortar may be specified where freezing is an issue, and asphalt satin beds are usually only 3/4 of an inch thick over a concrete or asphalt base and consist of mixture of about 7% asphalt and 93% sand. So base materials are generally aggregates, concrete or asphalt, and also concrete bases can be either new or existing concrete installed in accordance with the proper methods. Asphalt bases should not be used for rigid paving systems. So that was it for our chapter 4. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in chapter 5.